The Library of Ruina is ordinarily an entirely single-player game. Enemies lay out a series of attacks and then you can respond to them, using different speed die to redirect and control how each turn plays out to work in your advantage. It is, in my opinion, one of the best made games ever and is a firm contender for potentially my favourite game ever. So, having recently watched a lot of Balattro's multiplayer mod, another single-player game with a thriving multiplayer mod, the thought kept crossing my mind. What would a PvP Ruina actually look like? Sadly, when I looked into this at first, the only mod I found was unfinished. Really, that's being generous. It would be more accurate to say I found the gnawed-on wireframe of a functional mod, with the rest of the materials that were meant to build on it so mothballed that they may as well be moonlighting as a bug sanctuary. So with my hopes thoroughly dashed, I shelved the idea for another day. Until a few days ago now, to be precise, when the lead mod developer for a brand new multiplayer mod, Toshizuno, contacted me and asked if I'd want to try out their mod. I was more than eager to try this out, and so ended up streaming the mod on the channel to show off my first time experience with it, and to try and organise my thoughts to be able to give proper feedback on what I thought went well, and what I thought went badly with the mod. A lot of the footage I'll be using in the background of this video will be drawn from there, either to demonstrate points I'm making, or simply as something to look at whilst I ramble. But without further ado, let's get into things. The most important thing for me to say first is this. I really enjoyed this mod after changing my mindset of what I was getting into. The way Ruina is balanced means that most team compositions will end up needing to hit certain notes to be viable, so if you plan on playing with randoms, be prepared to adopt this mindset too. If you're just playing with friends though, go wild. As of writing, there's no way to properly organise lobbies with other people, but I'm sure this is something Toshizuno is working on for the near future. When I played, matchmaking was quite sparse, so realistically you'll probably be able to get into a lobby with a friend if you just play a type of game slightly off the norm that most will be playing. That actually serves as a perfect segue into what I want to talk about first, namely matchmaking. As an online multiplayer mod, a lot of what makes or breaks the gameplay experience is how smooth the matchmaking process is, and honestly, the mod nails it. There are a few tweaks I'd ask for in an ideal world, but as far as the rudimentary basis of a mod goes, this is honestly rather incredible. Matches are determined by two things: the number of librarians fielded and the highest rank of key page / card used in your build. If I run a solo lobby using the Red Mist for example, a key page found up here in Star of the City, the game will put me in a queue for other people also only using up to Star of the City unlocks, who have selected to use only one librarian to do so. As a slight side note, doing this in the multiplayer mod actually leads to a unique interaction, with both librarians getting the passive Duel, doubling their HP and stagger resistance. Those values were being changed around when I played, so don't take that as gospel. Back on track though, this is actually a really elegant way of handling things, with it not breaking a single time whilst I tried out the mod, other than one desync that we weren't quite sure why it happened, but you know, we just reconnected and it was perfectly fine. Due to the mod being relatively underground at the moment, matches can be hard to come by, but the mod itself has a Discord that you can use to find other people to go up against as a way to amend this issue. Other than that, there's only one minor gripe I have with the matchmaking. It is incredibly awkward to try and hit a specific zone of the game whilst using a fully completed save, constantly needing to refer to specific sections of cards and lower to ensure that you're not going to go over with one card and banish yourself to a difficulty far higher than your team is reasonably built to take on. This may be a case of asking for the moon after I've already been given the earth, but I'd love for a way to restrict the pages available to build with added to the mod, to allow for an easier time hitting targets with your build. Before we move on, I'd like to quickly ask you to consider liking and subscribing. It really does help out a lot with the algorithm and lets me know that videos like this are what you want to see in the future. If the mod ends up getting enough support, I may even try my hand at making more regular content covering matches, but that's something to see for the future. With matchmaking gone over, it's time to move on to the thing that you probably all actually clicked on the video for. What is PvP Ruina like to play? Well, it's different. When you load into a match, you and your opponent both roll speed values just like in normal Ruina. The differences start immediately after that, with the lowest value speed die needing to slot their attacks first, moving upwards from there. As an example, let's say I rolled 2 5s and my opponent rolled a 2 and a 6. They immediately slot in their 2 speed die, then play hands over to me and I slot my 5 speed dice, before they finally slot in their 6 speed die and play begins. This makes speed incredibly valuable, with good speed rolls and haste stacking being the difference between total control of how the turn plays out, or being at the complete mercy of whatever your opponent pulls. This is an immediate nerf to any ranged page, but don't worry, Full Stop has more than a place in this mod. When I first started, I tried to build what I thought would be an interesting build, and something that would without a doubt work in single player. This led to me getting my teeth kicked in, my wallet stolen, and a headache that wouldn't budge for the next week, forcing me to rather quickly reconsider how to actually play the mod. Thankfully for you all, you won't need to go through that experience because I'm about to explain the theory of what that torture told me. There are 3 types of librarian setup in PvP Ruina: immediate damagers, or snipers, supports, and scalers. And the key to having the match go your way is to run the correct balance of these 3 groups. They're all very important to the team comp, so I'll go through what they do and why you really want to run a mix by explaining what each of them actually does one by one. Immediate damagers. Ruina has a lot of first turn passives, which range from drawing more to debuffing your enemy's rolls. But the king of all of these has to be the increased dice power on first turn passives you'll find from the likes of Meow or Full Stop Office. Passives which allow any unit to put out stupid numbers in exchange for a dead passive slot for the rest of the combat. As such, you'll want to run about 3 on your lineup. Too many and you won't be able to survive further into the combat, too few and your enemy will wipe you off the field before you can progress to the next stage. They're only really useful in the opening acts of combat, but considering the average PvP engagement lasts for about 5 turns tops, that first turn can make or break the rest of the combat to come. The way that you use them is rather simple. Take out the opponent's scalers and supports, whilst ensuring their IDs can't kill your own. Speed is very important here. Letting you one side to make sure you can go over defenses, stealing potentially lethal attacks with an ID that won't have any use beyond the first turn, or even just being able to correctly allot your damage numbers without the enemy getting a chance to redirect them. If a few IDs die, that's not exactly something to worry about. Their purpose is inherently to be a disposable charge you fire off immediately and then throw away afterwards. Supports. Depending on what level of the game you're building a team for, this slot in the team will heavily change purposes. It would probably be more accurate to call this a wildcard, allowing for a sacrificial piece to activate Remembrance immediately through Eugen's Kazuna and Wrath of Torment, or protection stacking to survive the first turn blitz with Ujat cards. The way you build the slot is ultimately up to you, and honestly, if you feel like, it could be replaced with the next group we're going to talk about, that being scalers. Because of how variable they are, I can't really give a good way to use them. I would recommend building for something that'll make your scalers scale better or not die instantaneously when they get hit, so that combat will be more consistent for you. Personally, my favourite scaler has to be a Nikolai with Messenger, due to the fact that that allows her to give Mark to one enemy you really want to kill, strength and endurance to everyone on the field after hitting 11 charge, and then being able to give out prescripts to make sure your scaler can deal as much damage as possible. Speaking of scalers, here we are now. Scalers are, without a doubt, the most important unit on the field at any one time. If your ID is the opening salvo that you use to try and shape the combat how you want it to go, your scalers are the nuclear bomb you keep in your back pocket to force the enemy to surrender after you have them where you want them, or to clear the field once they're ready. The speed at which your scaler will, scale is a very important thing to keep in mind and will shape how you want the combat to play out. A very slow scaler might pair well with Ujat support, maybe even giving up one of your ID slots to ensure they remain alive long enough to nuke the enemy team. Meanwhile, a very fast scaler might not even need any support, bar not being wiped off the face of the library turn 1. You are almost always going to want to run some form of smoke on them, with Kazuna and Remembrance being additional options for a total of +4 strength after 2 allies have died. At higher levels, like Star of the City, I personally didn't find I had enough space for those two, but you could make them work. The way you use a scaler is very simple. You want them to scale as fast as possible so they can serve purpose through either intimidation or actual use. There is no punishment for forfeiting a match, so once players effectively checkmated by a gap in development on the field, simply the promise of a scaler there to finish off the job done by your IDs can be incredibly effective. More aggressive scalers like the Red Mist, who can have a full team wipe ready by the second turn, can actually wipe the field themselves with onrush chaining, which is a potential other angle if you don't want to force the game into a position that will resolve itself beneficially to you. Or if you want to leave the option open for a comeback, even if your IDs fail to do anything in the first turn. Due to a lack of abnormality pages, as of writing at least they are being reworked as we speak, these builds won't be affected by the floor you run outside of aesthetics and the music you want to listen to whilst you fight. After all's said and done, I would personally recommend running one scaler, one support/wildcard, and 3 IDs to finish off the roster. Your first turn is a race to try and put the other team's scaler out of action, and to prevent as many of their IDs from acting as soon as possible. From there you can just play out whatever resources you have left, and hope your support and scaler can mop up whatever the IDs have left for you to clear up. That was a lot of talking though without really going through a match in detail, so here's a round I'm going to go over in detail to explain my thought processes whilst playing. If you don't care to see that, or if you just want to hear my final thoughts, then skip to this timestamp here. But if you do want to stick around, then here we go. Upon loading into the fight, I immediately check over the passives of everyone we're fighting to see what team design I'm going up against. I immediately notice that none of them are running the turn 1 damage passives, or, in other words, they lack IDs. Instead, the opposing team consists almost entirely of scalers other than Nikolai, with the most worrying of the bunch being Bayard going for a stagger nuke that will all but entirely take one librarian off of the field, and with Xiao going for a power stacking into a mass attack to try and wipe us out on the second turn. I, meanwhile, am running 3 IDs in the form of Ye, Bamboo Headed Kim and the Purple Tear, one support in the form of Nikolai for her mark and strength, with the aforementioned Messenger for the prescript boosts, and one scaler in the form of the Smoke Onrush Red Mist. In the first turn, my speed rolls vary from being awful at 2 3s on both Nikolai and Bamboo Headed Kim, to amazing with a 7 and 6 on my Red Mist. Because of this, the first turn is fairly standard, with me choosing to target the opposing Nikolai most heavily, as well as getting some damage in on the Xiao and Alan. Because of the fact that they have no IDs whatsoever, this initial turn results in a stagger and near kill on Nikolai, and a stagger on their Alan. Now that we've hit turn 2, I'm looking to pull off my onrush chain. The issue is here, I now notice their Xiao has immediate repairs on them. Immediate repairs prevents the enemy from being staggered once per combat, thus halting my combo in place and preventing the full team wipe that I'm attempting to pull off otherwise. On a more lucky note for me though, my speed rolls decided to more than make up for the previous turn's lackluster results. Their Xiao now decides to use their mass attack, Raging Storm Love. This is mostly inconsequential as their Xiao low rolls, and only hits for 11 damage on a few of my librarians. We then proc Xiao's immediate repairs, however due to Xiao's resistances and a massive low roll from me, we don't actually immediately stagger her again, preventing the field wipe from going off. The opponent however targeted Bayard's stagger nuke towards our Ye, the key page that immediate repairs belongs to. This means their stagger nuke doesn't go off against us, only taking themselves out of the fight instead. Now looking at the third turn, their Callow is staggered, their Bayard is also staggered, and their Xiao is on 26 health and 13 stagger, which is well within my kill range for my entirely unstaggered team of librarians. After this point the fight is all but decided, and I finish off what remains in the field to close out the battle. So it's time for my final thoughts. Should you play this mod? As I said towards the start of the video, yes, without a doubt you should. If you're only playing against friends, it's an amazing way to be able to build stupid things and play Ruina against each other. And if you want to try out public matches, the game has a surprising amount of emergent strategy from a system you'd expect to be entirely imbalanced otherwise. I don't actually have any criticisms that I haven't brought up already, but I do have some things that I'd love to see in the mod going forwards. I'd like to preface that I have no idea how to mod Ruina, and I can't say I speak for everyone else who plays the mod. These are just my opinions of what I think would make the mod even better than it already is. Firstly, the ability to create lobbies. I really want to run a tournament with this mod, functionality that is all but impossible to do with the current system unless you can somehow prevent everyone who's playing from connecting to the match style you're running. This would also help with people who just want to play against their friends without randomly running into other people using the mod who will presumably not give them the best of times. Secondly, adding abnormality pages to the mod. This would add a really interesting depth to the mod, making the choice of which floor you run matter beyond appearances, and adding more strategies to run that play out longer into matches like the ones we have now. Some pages like Halls of Savagery would probably have to be reworked as to avoid unbalanced or unfun matchups, but otherwise I think this would add a depth to the mod that would make it even better than it already is. Thirdly, when the mod gets popular enough to warrant it, some sort of way to track elo like chess or Minecraft ranked speedrunning users would be amazing. It should probably be included as a separate mode within the main mod so that people going up against their friends don't feel like they're being punished for just messing around. The lobby system I suggested earlier would play in really nicely with this. All you need to do then is make lobbies not change elo on wins or losses. Obviously that's talking as if I know the first thing about how easy any of that would be to implement, but I think it would be a cool idea. And finally, for my most contentious pick, I think a draft system would be really cool to see as a mode within the mod. At the moment, seemingly a lot of picks are just the meta choices for builds at a certain level, so a way to prevent certain key pages and passives from appearing match to match seems to me to be a great way to introduce diversity into each match. Some extra time for building could also be given then after this initial banning phase, allowing for compensation to whatever people choose to remove. Other than that though, I don't particularly have much more to add. I love playing the mod, and I'm going to continue playing it even now after this video goes up. I might even be streaming more of this mod on the day that this video goes up, so consider dropping by. With that said though, thank you to all the members for your continued support, and thank you to the rest of you for watching these videos. I couldn't do this without you all, so it really does mean a lot. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'll see you all next time.